Previously on American Girl Doll Horror Stories. Such a nice, spooky story! Friend, the fire elf, bullied me before! We did not bully you. It is all a misunderstanding. Help me avenge myself to you and Freya! The earth magic is too strong. I will catch you sooner or later, Gloomy! Soot, are you alright? No, I am alright. Honestly, I was more surprised than hurt. That earth fairy was not really using her magic to hurt me. It was more like a warning than an actual offense. Yes, let me think first. I do not want to hurt Georgina and even Chanel, her fairy friend. Maybe we can find out a way to reason with them. How got you? Georgina, stop this. I am not your enemy. Say sorry for bullying me. If you do so, I might let you off. I will not say sorry for something I never did. We were not bullying you. Such impudence! You are still trying to deny it even though you and your elf friend hurt me!
Georgina dear, maybe we are going way too far. I think you are overdoing it.
No, Chanel the Gloomy and her friend deserves to be punished for being mean to me! By the way, where is that fire elf? Were you looking for me, you ugly sea monster? There, you see? That fire elf is bullying me. If anyone is bullying here, it is you. I honestly didn't know it was you in that lake. I already said sorry, but you didn't accept it. I know that while I am in my human form, my powers are a bit limited, but I can still hurt you! Oh no you don't. You can do what you want with me, but when it is my friends, it is a different story. Oh, Chanel, help me! If you think I will allow you to hurt Gloomy, you have another thing coming!
Georgina, we have to go as an earth fairy. I am weak against fire.
Yes, let's retreat, but this is not over. We will be back soon. Are you okay, Gloomy? Yes, thank you. But like Georgina said, they will return. So let's be watchful and figure out how to resolve this. Let's all go back to the house. Welcome to American Girl Doll Horror Stories, where every Sunday, we will share a spooky story that will send shivers down your thorny spine. I am Gloomy Sunday and I am your narrator. And of course, my cat, Soot. Without further ado, let me call my book of shadows so we can begin tonight's spooky story. By what creeps, what crawls, by what does not. Book of Shadows, dilly-dally not. Zombie, tiger, eat. This story is from a rural province in China which talks about a scary experience when a father returns from the grave to drag his family with him back to hell. An unlikely savior interceded which lead to a long family legend. This story has been passed down from generation to generation in my family. This story was told to me by my dad and his dad shared the story to him and so forth. According to my father, this is the reason why our bloodline, when we die, become tigers. Let me tell you how this harrowing story. Long ago in our province in old China, our family was considered very, very greedy. My ancestors were so greedy that they never liked guests or relatives to visit them because they didn't want to spend money to entertain, feed, or host anything for them. Keep in mind back then, people were dirt poor, so I don't really blame them. Because of their greed, selfishness, lack of hospitality, Or maybe it was even just their embarrassment that they were too poor to afford guests. They decided to move deep into the forest and shun society. It was a 2-hour walk through the mountains and dense jungle to visit them, so no one would bother and go into the trouble to visit my ancestors. When my ancestors were settled deep in the forest and mountains, they were finally content and they lived peacefully for a long time because they do not have to share their limited resources with anyone. They were a pretty much self-sustainable family unit that relied on the lands for all their needs. During this time of solitude, they were fortunate to have 4 children, a vegetable garden, and even a little farm. My ancestors were really close, and because the hut they lived in was small, they were very dependent upon one another. The hut was shaped like a rectangle where it divided into 3 separate rooms. The doorway was in the middle room, which was the kitchen, and the 2 bedrooms were on opposite sides on both ends with the 2 bamboo walls separating them from the kitchen. It was this closeness that brought them together until one day, the father suddenly fell ill from an unknown sickness, probably cancer, but of course since this was so long ago it was not diagnosed. The kids and the mother did not know what to do. They were frantic and very worried. There were no doctors close to them and they relied heavily on the natural herbs around the forest and whatever they could only find. It wasn't until the 3rd day that the father was still having a fever that he said to his family,
"My beloved wife and dear children, if I die, bury me in the house. If I come back, don't be scared, I will take you with me."
The mother and the kids wept as they saw him take his last breath and pass away. They dug a hole in the middle of the hut as he had asked and buried him there. The reason why they didn't call any relatives nor did they seek any help was because the oldest child was only 10 years old and the rest were still too small to help with anything. The wife knew that without her husband, she and her family would have to move back to the village and go back to her family. She and the kids packed the little possession that they had, and when they were finished, it was already dark. The wife decided that they would leave early the following morning because it was a very long walk back to the village. So that night, they all slept together in the parents' room for the last time. Later on that night, the oldest son woke his mom up.
"Mother, do you hear that? It sounds like I can hear Father telling us to come to him. I hear some digging coming from the hole we buried Father in."
The mom listened carefully and she also heard it. She was terrified at the sound she heard next. It was a long moaning, almost as if someone was in a very deep and agonizing pain. It was definitely her husband's voice, and whatever he said before he died, apparently it was the truth and was becoming real now. She knew that whatever it was, even if it was her husband, she did not want it to harm her or her kids. So she started to hide the children in the little room. She carefully put her youngest son, who was almost 1 year old, into a bamboo basket and covered it with a thin sheet. She then put their only daughter, who was 4 years old, underneath the bed. The little girl woke up and asked her mom what was happening, but the mom quietly whispered,
"Hush, whatever you do, do not answer your father."
She then told her 10-year-old son to take his 6-year-old brother out the window and run to the village to tell their uncles to come help them. The oldest son shook his younger brother awake, and without further ado, they both climbed out the window and swiftly ran to the dark forest. The mother could hear her dead husband slowly dragging himself out and crawling to the other bedroom where he used to sleep. He could hear him pulling on the baskets and chairs. He kept saying,
"My beloved wife, where are you? Come to me this instant!"
The little girl, who was her father's favorite, was overwhelmed with extreme joy and forgot her mother's admonishment. The little girl shouted, "Father, we are here in your bed!" The mother was horrified at her daughter's disobedience and told her daughter to shut up, but it was too late. She could hear her dead husband slowly shuffling towards their room, and she could only wait in horror underneath the bed as he made his way towards them. At first she could not see anything, but as the sound of the dragging feet got closer, she could see by the candlelight the shape of her husband. He was walking stiff and barely had any movement in his joints as he shuffled on both of his feet now. He said,
"My dear daughter, where are you and your mom? Come to me! I miss you!"
The stupid daughter, who didn't know what danger they were in, once again said, "My father, mother and I are underneath the bed." Before the mother could react, she screamed in horror as she saw two gray hands reaching underneath the bed and grabbed the daughter by her legs. The little girl shrieked in pain and terror as the father pulled her out of bed and said,
"This one is my daughter!"
I bet the daughter regretted being disobedient to her mother, but it was too late now. She will now suffer the consequences of her stupidity as her dead father took her out of the room. The screaming stopped suddenly and the mother knew that her husband had killed their daughter. There was no helping her now, and if she doesn't act fast, she and her baby son will suffer the same fate as the disobedient daughter. She quickly bolted out from under the bed, grabbed her baby son in a basket, and quickly tried to climb out the window. However, the basket holding her son was too big for the window and it got stuck. She gasped in horror as her husband made his way back to the room and said to her,
"My wife! How come you are running away? You said you are going with me too, you come here!"
The dead husband then grabbed the basket from her and she fell forward out of the window. She had no choice but to leave her baby son. As much as she wanted to go back to save her baby, she knew that she would die if he got a hold of her, and so reluctantly chose to run for her life and let the gods decide if her baby will live or die. As she ran down the trail, she could sense that the husband had already got out the front door and was chasing her. Whatever movement issues he had earlier were gone now, because he was running after her now with both his hands sticking out in front of her and a huge, horrible grin on his face. She quickly got off the trail and saw a huge tree. In desperation, she climbed up as fast as she could and listened carefully.
"My foolish wife, where are you?"
Her husband said in a long, slow voice. She could hear him calling it over and over again. The wife wept pitifully as she thought about her daughter and her young son. She could only hope that her two older boys made it safely to the village to get help and that they could at least survive the ordeal. As she was asking and praying to the spirits of her ancestors for help, she didn't notice that a huge, horrifying tiger was up in the tree with her as well. It was staring right at her when she opened her eyes. She let out a loud yell and her husband heard it. He came running towards the tree now and was directly underneath her.
"Come down! I want to take you and the kids away!"
The husband cried in a dreadful manner. Right then, the tiger said to her,
"Hey, how come you are at my place? Go away at once."
The wife was so terrified that she forgot to be surprised that the tiger was speaking with her. She instead pleaded with the tiger in her desperation.
Please help me, Tiger. My husband is dead, but he has come back to kill me and my kids. Please help me, I beseech you.
The tiger was actually a very old creature that was hunted by the people for medicinal purposes. It was always in hiding and scared of humans because of what they did to it and its family. This time it was different. It saw this as an opportunity to help the same creature that hunted it down, and so it made the woman promise him something in return for helping.
If I do help you, you must swear not to kill me anymore. You have to sacrifice an animal to me every year. From this day on, you and your family will also be my family.
The lady agreed, and the tiger then told her to give him the shawl that she was wearing. The tiger put it on and climbed down. As it got to the ground, the husband immediately came after the tiger. It circled around it and could not figure out why his wife was so big and hairy, but it was wearing his wife's jacket.
"My wife! How come you look so strange? You don't look the same!"
The stupid zombie husband exclaimed. As it came closer to the tiger, it realized it wasn't his wife, but a tiger. The zombie husband was so angry that they immediately fought. The husband made an unearthly sound as he tried to grab the tiger's neck and twist it, but the tiger was too big and managed to break free. With one swipe of its claw, it knocked the husband's head right off. It then started eating the husband's body until there was nothing left. The tiger was very hungry, so it enjoyed eating the husband. The wife watched it happen. Although she was sad that her husband, whom she loved very much when he was still alive, got eaten by a tiger, she was a practical woman and knew it had to happen so he would not pester her and the remaining children. Her husband needed to be rid of permanently. A shot then rang out from a distance. The boys had reached the village and successfully went to their uncle's house. The uncles and family formed a rescue party and came as fast as they could. They saw a huge tiger at the base of a tree and fired a shot at it. The tiger then looked up at the woman and said,
"I helped you. You must never forget your promise."
and it ran off. The wife climbed down and sobbed hysterically when she saw that her two oldest boys were still alive. She hugged them and stopped her brothers from going after the tiger, explaining that it saved her and it ate her zombie husband. Her two brothers were understanding and happy that their dead brother-in-law was disposed of. As they got to the hut, they could see that her daughter was indeed already dead. Her neck was in an irregular angle, so it was assumed that it was twisted to death by the zombie husband. They found a basket and inside it was the little son still sleeping. The husband did not even realize that his son was in there. Thank goodness the baby was sleeping so soundly that it didn't make any whimper or noise. The mother hugged her baby and the uncles took the daughter's body for a proper burial in the village. They also burned down the hut and warned everyone who was there to never go back to that place ever again. The mother told her relatives about the exciting story and her uncles immediately went and sacrificed a pig for the tiger. They thanked the tiger for its generosity and graciousness. The family from then on never went out to hunt for tigers. It wasn't until 50 years later when the mother, who was very old at this time, was lying on her deathbed that she told her eldest son about her other promise to the tiger. She told him everything about what would happen and for him to not be afraid when the tiger came for them.
"What do you mean, my dear mother?"
The eldest son asked in surprise.
My son, I also promised the tiger that whenever one of our family member dies, its descendants will come to eat our corpses.
As soon as she finished telling him the story, he could hear a loud roar coming from the forest. It was ferocious and powerful. His mother smiled at him for the last time and then silently passed away. While we cannot be sure that this story actually happened, after all, zombies and talking tigers are not regular occurrences, the lesson here is to be obedient to your elders, especially your parents. Most of the time they have our best interests at heart, so we should show them our respect and deference by taking their instructions seriously. That is all for tonight's spooky story. Please come back next Sunday as we share another scary story from the dark side of the world. Again, this is Gloomy Sunday and that is my cat, Soot. Blessed be.